It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
Question from Jean Theo. How do you account for saving for a car if you are at the stage where you're saving and investing 25%? So what's next if he needs a car?
So I'm Jean Theo. I'm saving 25%, but I need a new car. How do I think about that in food terms? Got it.
Did you say Jean Theo?
I did.
So how did you know it was Jean Theo? Because
Well,
my college
I took a
nickname
guess.
when
I'm
I was
gonna be
going
honest.
to a drive-through would always be Jean Brion Preston. You know, I would go to a drive-through and actually
It's
get. So I was
spelled-
intrigued by you actually said
It's
Jean.
spelled Jean dash Theo, but there's a little like dash on the E. So
Okay.
it made me think this is pronounced
Gene Theo, where I came from.
yes, it made me think this is not Jean Theo. That's why I,
was
went
so
for
distracted
Jean.
because I kept going Jean Brion.
All right, so here's what.
Anyway, he
Okay.
does have a question for us about buying a car.
Here's what his question was. Hey, I'm saving 25%, but I need to save for a new car. How do I think about that? Right. So one of the lines of questioning that we're going to go down is, okay, are you at a place where you're trying to upgrade your car, meaning like I have a car, but I want to move into a nicer car, or maybe there's some things going on, or are you in a like I need a car, like I don't know. Every time I walk out, I'm gonna have a Nate, and I try to crank it up, and it just does not crank. It does not happen. It's like I need a new vehicle. You have to answer which one of those scenarios are you in, right?
Yeah, I definitely think because there's a reason. Part of this goes into step 4 of the financial order of operations with your emergency reserves. I think a lot of people always get hung up in the fact of, what do I do about cars? What do I do about houses? And a lot of that stuff, remember, on the first house, we let you do 3 to 5%. You know, on cars, there's a reason we do 23.8. Because if you are in that situation that Bo was describing where you need good, reliable transportation. We're not talking about fancy transportation, the transportation that you're hoping, like I did when I was 16, that was going to help me get dates. It didn't, by the way. But it's one of those things where you have to really kind of handicap, what is this transportation doing for me? And if it's bare necessity, get me there safe, that 20% down payment is probably going to be in step 4 of the financial, of the emergency reserve. So that's part of that 3 to 6 months that you're doing. Now, if you're a person because you're already saving 25% and investing 25%, that shows me that you've got a level of success. So you might be thinking of going beyond, the basic transportation. And now you're thinking about, is this when the Tesla or the BMW or some other nice brand that I want you to pay cash for, because I want you to go ahead and make sure that your eyes aren't getting bigger than what your wallet or your purse can afford. And that's what I love about when you get to really step 8 of the financial order of operations, because you've already said, look, you're at as soon as you're saving and investing 25%, you're at step 7 of the financial order of operations. So you might be right now at that threshold of step 8, which is the prepaid future expenses. This is when you get to start daydreaming. Is that prepaid future expenses? Is that the kid's college? Or is that the fancy new car that I've been putting off? There's somebody I follow on social media. They're like 24, 25. And they post a lot of content on Twitter. And he said the other day, he's like, man, I really want a Tesla. But he goes, I'm not going to have $1,000 car payment, so I'm going to just keep investing, saving. I'll come back to the Tesla later. And that's exactly the heart of what we're doing with step 8, is that step 8 is when you get to daydream, is this when I do rental real estate? Is this when I pay for the kids' college? Or is this when I do the really fancy vacation or buy the fancy car? This is your opportunity in step 8.
Don't you find, Brian, that cars are a really difficult one, because a lot of us, we begin blurring the lines of what I need versus what I want, right? Like it's different. Like if your family's growing and you're in, you're in a Civic, but you got 4 kids. You maybe need a bigger car. Like that's a need. But just moving from the car that may be like 5 or 6 years old and maybe doesn't have quite the newest technology, that's different than just wanting to upgrade. And I think having a realistic understanding of where you are in your consumption cycle, being able to discern, is this improvement actually necessary? Is this improvement just something I want to do? Because that's going to affect how aggressivly that you attack that goal.
I had somebody, I'm not going to say who it is, but I had somebody come talk to me about this just recently, because they have a baby on the way, and their wife has a big honking SUV, good looking SUV. But then he has a four-door car.
Sedan, yeah.
And he's like, and this will be the third. And he was like, I just don't know if that car seat's going to fit as good in the back seat of my four-door sedan. I think I need to upgrade. I was like, what do you think about getting? He's like, truck. And I was like, wait a minute. Because I was thinking he was asking, am I getting a Honda
Like
Pilot
a Pilot or a Highlander or something. Right?
Truck. And he was like, yeah, that bench seat's going to be much bigger. I don't know. I think sometimes that is a perfect example of, is this the trigger point where maybe in my communication, like we were watching a YouTube video pre-show, I won't give too, and the person, the video we were watching, the person that they had called in on, it was a call show, he goes, you just want us to tell you no? Because you know our answer is going to be no, but yet you're asking this question anyway. I think sometimes you have to make sure that you're being honest with yourself on what's a need versus a want, and get that really honed in so you don't make a financial mistake.